Kingscreek is a horror podcast, and thus the content in this episode may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
You are now entering Kingscreek. Episode 17, The Tape.
So I've spent the last day or so going through the files labeled C, like that Sarah girl suggested. You know, like how all the files have names like C123, A456, B789, all the C ones. It seems as though they, in some form or another, all have to do with Crimson Apothecaries, or this guy, Old Sal. So, that's one mystery of Uncle Mark's filing system solved. Thing is with these files, though, is that they're pretty small, and that is something I was expecting. I've been pretty picky about the files I read for this podcast, trying to get the ones that make the best stories or have someone's full account. However, a lot of them are just cases with very little follow-up, like, hold on, let me pick a random one. Here, this one. Case C78, excessive keratin obstruction. There's not a witness statement or anything, just some medical records, an incident report, a receipt, and some of Uncle Mark's notes. In February of 1966, Mildred Bryn went to the emergency room under, quote, unprecedented circumstances, unquote. Previously, she had been diagnosed with lymphoma and underwent chemotherapy to treat it. She was now in remission, but had reportedly expressed concern that her hair wasn't growing back, or at least that it wasn't growing back fast enough. At her next appointment, however, she had a full head of hair, much to her clinician's surprise. It had only been a week, but somehow the hair went all the way down to her shoulders. When asked, Miss Bryn simply said she, quote, had gotten a second opinion. Just a couple days later, her husband called emergency services to report that she was, quote, overgrown, unquote. She was rushed to the hospital in an almost unrecognizable state. The hair on her head was almost 6 feet long in places, and her curls had grown into a tangled mess. But the thing is, it didn't stop there. Every part of her was covered in at least an inch of curly black hair, all tangled together and making it nearly impossible for her to move. Ultimately, she apparently died from asphyxiation. The autopsy showed that hair was growing on the inside of her body as well, filling up her throat, mouth, veins, and most importantly, lungs. As for the Crimson Apothecaries connection, apparently this receipt was among her belongings at the time of her death. It's handwritten with just a price and the words, the hide of Asterion. So, classic calling card of this Red Sal's handiwork, but not a lot of specific information to go off of. All the files are like this. There's a story with someone encountering this strange shop, buying something with a weird name, suffering terrible consequences, and then the shop is nowhere to be found. There's basically no actual information outside of references here and there in the incidents themselves. It's not supernatural, but it is interesting, I guess. I'm more concerned with how Uncle Mark plays into all of this. He had some kind of obsession with this weird medical place. Why did he care so much? Sure, they're clearly pulling off some weird, sketchy stuff, but he's gonna look into them in his paranormal studies? And if they had something to do with his death, was he actually onto something? Because it can't be that they were some kind of medicine-powered Needful Things knockoff. There's gotta be something else going on here. Alright, I've been putting this off for a bit. If you listen to the trailers that I made for this show, you might recall that I found a tape player and a tape in Uncle Mark's desk when I first started going through his stuff. There's also a tape in the C-case drawer. Actually, to be more accurate, it looks like there used to be quite a few tapes, but there's only one now. And that's part of a pattern. Ever since I started going through these files, I've found empty spaces, gaps, personal statements that get referenced that I can never find. I think Uncle Mark made tapes for a lot of these cases, his own personal statements, but outside of those references, I couldn't find any of these tapes. Until now. And that's the reason I've been putting off talking about this. I never had any solid evidence that these tapes even existed, so this whole theory was half-baked at best, but now I actually hold evidence in my hands, and, more to the point, it seems like it connects to Crimson Apothecaries somehow. It's labeled C12D, MB Personal Statement. I haven't listened to it yet, so I guess we'll find out what it says together.
September 18th, 2006. Log entry number C12D. Mark Bachman recording. Taking a break from the other big case, I spent my last 2 weeks focusing on this Crimson Apothecaries phenomenon, one of the more, shall we say, elusive entities in Kingscreek, and also one of the longest running. The earliest known possible sighting is the incident described in C136, November of 1857. Sightings and encounters vary, but there are a few commonalities. Point number 1. There's always some form of medical product, usually a pill, that is allegedly created to treat a client's perceived issue. This product is always named after a mythological figure, usually from Greek mythology specifically, Morpheus, Echo, Medusa, etc. And the product, true to its origin, almost always completes the desired effect of the customer. It just usually has unforeseen supernatural consequences. Point number 2. The shop itself, the apothecary in question, is never in the same place. It's described as being in the center of town, by the lake, down the street from the school. Pretty much every vacant lot or open piece of land has been graced with its presence at some point or another, and yet it never leaves a trace. Is it even a physical building, or is it perhaps just a recurring hallucinatory phenomena? An incredibly detailed and consistent hallucination, I suppose. Point number 3, this Red Sal. He's been mentioned multiple times. This short, friendly-looking shopkeeper, always appearing to be in his late 30s, early 40s. But sightings of this same man go back almost as early as encounters with Crimson itself. It might be members of the same family, but I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of strange things in this town. I really wish I had more to work with, but that's the thing about Red Sal. He seems to be prevalent throughout these cases, but the second I actually try to find something more about him, he slips right through my fingertips, like a wet fish or a serpent. But when I'm not looking for him, he seems to haunt me anyway. As mentioned in other tapes, I've had a lot of strange encounters as of late, but one I feel is directly related to this case in particular. I've had a lot of headaches recently, which I'm fine with. I learned to cope with headaches following a few particularly nasty morning afters from some of those parties back in school with Raymond, so don't think of me as fragile. But sometimes the pain can be almost debilitating. I'll be doing something innocuous, like reading through a file or preparing a meal, and in the next moment I'll be on the floor, doubled over in pain as waves of red-hot agony throb outward from my skull, sending shocks down my whole body. Now, with everything else surrounding my work, this was almost too much. I've tried to treat these occurrences with all your traditional means, Tylenol, aspirin, migraine treatments. None of it has been proven particularly effective, so I resigned myself to simply suffering through it while I continue to work. After all, once I was done, I could probably see a doctor at any point I wanted, right? But that's not what struck me. A few days ago, I was in the midst of a particularly head-splitting episode when I heard a knock at the door. I managed to drag myself from the couch to answer it, but upon opening the door, I saw no one there. Instead, there was a package. Attached was a small note that simply read, "For your ailment." Now, I know what I'm about to say will sound extraordinarily reckless, but in my defense, I wasn't exactly thinking straight. I tore open the package, found a small vial of black, evil-looking liquid. Without a moment's hesitation, I pulled open the cork on the bottle. The pop was small, smooth, almost hypnotic. I was just about to put the bottle to my lips when I saw the second note. Almost lost in the packaging. I still have it now. I'll read it to you directly. To Marcus Bachman, I admire the interest you've taken in my work. I look forward to meeting you, and in the meantime, I hope this satiates your pain. Regards, Sal. Headache or no, the moment I saw that signature was the moment that liquid was down the drain. I will not be taking chances over supposed gifts from this monster. As I went to set the vial down, the pain came screeching back, this time so strong it almost vibrated against the edges of my skull. I had to drop myself to the floor so I didn't fall over. When the pain passed, I opened my eyes and found myself lying with one side on my face, pressed against the floorboards. The empty vial on the kitchen floor came into focus in front of me. I don't even know how it fell without shattering. Looking at it, it was almost like it was taunting me, mocking me for resisting it. So Sal knows about me, knows about my operation, thus he likely has a vested interest in keeping me out of it. The thing I really don't understand, though, is what's the point of it all? What is the goal of this Sal? Most of the entities I've encountered here have, in some form or another, been more animalistic, operating on instinct, or they've been corrupted versions of human desires. But this Sal is seemingly sentient and largely self-aware, and doesn't seem to get a lot out of this. Is it some form of sadism? Is he just genuinely unaware of the effects? Does he have a reason at all? What about the case with Stephen Reynolds and his brother, with the cured cold? Was that just a special case where the medicine worked fine, or did something go wrong? I just don't understand any of it. Maybe I should have taken that invitation. This would all be so much easier if I could talk to him. I'm used to not having a lot of evidence to go off of, but at least it's usually solid. I can touch the footprints, or the hair, or the slime, or any kind of trace, but this damn medicine shop is something that, as far as I know, only exists in the witness statements of others. I just can't work with so little. It's times like this that I wish Sarah were still here. She had her own quirks and could get distracted, but she was much better at reasoning things out than I am. She could probably look over this whole case file and piece it together like that. Considering her father's history with Crimson, she might even have some insight I don't. At the same time, though, she always had a knack for getting into trouble, even with her father. I hope she's doing alright. Maybe I should try and get in contact with her sometime. Anyway, inconclusive results. We'll continue to investigate further, perhaps by following up on the Reynolds case again. Lord knows I need a victory. End recording.
Sarah Hickman. What is it with this Sarah girl? She and Uncle Mark are clearly best friends at this point, so why haven't I heard anything about her? Why didn't my aunt tell me about her? Does she really have his best interest at heart? Like, she's got some kind of brain thing where she obsesses over tiny little details, gets way too personal way too fast, and then she claims to know everything about you. Maybe she fooled Uncle Mark, what with how gullible he clearly is to believe all this ghost story stuff, and then wormed her way into his life. Yeah, that's it. She probably tricked him into trusting her so that she could perform some kind of insurance scheme and told him not to tell me or his family about her so she could isolate him, all at age 12 years old. Ugh, never mind. It's probably not about that. Forget it. She's still weird, though. Just like this whole Crimson thing, though not as weird as Uncle Mark's making it out to be. I still don't know why he wrote off the family member thing. That seems perfectly reasonable. And maybe they don't have a literal store. It could be a tent or something. Tents can have shelves and signs, right? The whole thing's weird, but it's not magical. Besides the confirmation that Sal definitely knew about Uncle Mark and probably did kill him, I don't really have anything to work with here. Kind of like Uncle Mark, I guess. I really hope that Sarah is as good as she and Uncle Mark say she is at doing this private investigation stuff. Till then, I guess I'll keep going through these files. Damien Bachman signing off, etc., etc. Alright, it's on.
Perfect. Should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. So I spent yesterday going through building records, old newspapers, trying to chat with people based on the cases you sent me, everything. But I couldn't find anything concrete. Whoever this is, they're doing a pretty damn good job of covering up any kind of paper trail, assuming, of course, that we're dealing with nothing supernatural.
Which we are assuming, correct?
I mean, if you want to, sure. I'm not going to make any assumptions yet. Simply follow all the paths until we find the correct measure. My thought process has always been that you have to follow up on all possibilities, eliminate them, and then whatever you have left is the answer. And considering what I know and what we've learned, I think there's a few possibilities to consider. One, that this is all some kind of hallucination. Seems like a simple conclusion, but unlikely. Hallucinations rarely carry over to multiple people. And we have actual empirical evidence of these medicines' existence and the financial transactions in the form of handwritten receipts. One could theoretically fake that, but it takes a lot of effort for no conceivable benefit. Two, some of these cases, the more contradictory ones, are false or misleadingly unrelated. This is much more likely than the hallucination theory, but at the same time, I can't find a ton of real discrepancies, so it's easier to assume that each story is connected until proven otherwise. 3, someone is hiding. Whether that's through supernatural means or not, they've eliminated all concrete evidence of their existence, and have effectively become a ghost. And thus, we don't have any real good leads to follow up on, because logic dictates that at this point, they would have eliminated any leads you or I could think of. This is the theory I believe holds the most water, though it also means our task is the most difficult.
No leads at all? Yeah, difficult is one way to put it. Hopeless, more like it.
Never say never. The thing about eliminating all your leads is that you have to actually do it. Leads don't just disappear on their own like this. You need a tool to get rid of your traces. But paradoxically, that tool leaves its own traces. It's like how a really good quality eraser might make a pencil mark completely disappear, but it'll still leave little bits of itself on the page.
Well, then what kind of tool are we talking about?
I don't know. That part's purely theoretical.
Oh, great.
But I know who would know.
Right, I'm turning on the recorder again. Damien Bachman, sane, standing at the bus stop outside Kingscreek with Sarah Hickman, insane, wearing a full backpack. Why exactly are we here again?
My contact is from out of town. I called him and asked him to meet us in Seattle in a day or two. I don't have a reliable source of transportation, and you say you can't drive Uncle Mark's car, which is totally fine, just means we have to take the bus.
It's not just Uncle Mark's car. I can't just take it and leave my aunt with nothing to drive. What if she needs it?
Your aunt?
And besides, this guy's going to be in Seattle in 2 days. Why do we need to leave now? Seattle's like a 4-hour drive, 8 hours on the bus. We can wait.
Sure, but I want to give us some buffer time. Plus, I like the city, and figured we could see the sights. Maybe go to the Paramount or the Point Defiance Zoo.
Point Defiance Zoo is in Tacoma, not Seattle.
Is it? I remember it being closer.
You really haven't been to Washington in a while, huh?
I mean, I guess.
What's the guy's deal, anyway? Your contact. Why are we going to see him?
We need an expert on the paranormal. He's an old friend, someone who I studied with for a couple of years, and he's far more experienced with paranormal phenomena and parapsychology than I am. I figure he might be able to give us a fresh perspective on all of this.
Oh, cool. Another one of you guys. Glad I'm going to be going on an 8-hour trip for that.
Well, unless you have any other suggestions, I thought this was our best option.
Maybe I'd agree if there wasn't so much rain.
Yes, I noticed the rain too. It's odd. The forecast this morning didn't suggest the downpour would be this bad.
Well, that bus better show up soon. It's already 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
Today's episode of Kingscreek was written and performed by Thomas S. Dennis, with additional voices by Gus Marceau and Dharma Torres-Aguilar. It was produced by James Makepeace, and the score was composed by Kai After Kai. Script supervision is provided by James Makepeace and Ryan Kennedy. Our cover art is by CyberGrapeUK, and our social media manager is Ryan Kennedy. All episodes are a production of Tracer Magnum Entertainment. If you'd like to support the show, rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, or whatever service you use to listen to our show. It helps tremendously and ensures we're seen by more and more of the unsuspecting public. If you'd like to get in touch with us or become involved with the community, join our Discord server, post on the r/Kingscreek subreddit, or follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Tumblr, all under the handle @KingscreekOfficial. Share with your friends, family, or anyone else you want to ensnare in our web. And above all else, thank you for listening.